Okay guys, welcome back. It's Jimmy by 1000 and this is 33 top tips from the Fun Pimps. Now just as a disclaimer, this video is for new players and these are not my tips, these are tips from the Fun Pimps that you can find in the loading menu, and I just wanted to go through them and see if any of them are actually useful or not. So let's get into the video. Okay, so tip number 1 from the Fun Pimps is main screen bars. So on your HUD, your health and stamina levels are shown as red and blue bars. Food and water levels are shown as green and blue bars underneath your tool belt. Open the character window with B to see detail player stats in the tabs below your character name. So if you hit B, brings up your character guy and you've got detailed stats here. Tells you your health, stamina, food, water, temperatures, zombie kills, player kills, deaths, kilometers traveled, items crafted, longest life, current life, XP till your next level up, and your loot stage. And there's a little bit more detailed character stats here. Health regen, armor rating, explosion resistance, armor crit resist, stamina, medical healing per second, cold resist, heat resist, mobility, jump strength, carrying capacity, damage, block damage, rounds per minute, and attacks per minute. I guess that's with whatever item you have equipped at the time. And as it said at the start, on your HUD you've got your food and water down the bottom here. Green is food, blue is water. The purple bar is the amount of XP you need until your next level. And you've got your stamina and your health right here. Okay, so tip number 2 from the Fun Pimps is the Stone Axe. Stone Axe is a primitive starting tool used to gather resources using left click. Use right click to repair and upgrade blocks. So of course you can use your stone axe to break things. You can't do that while you're in traders, but if we go outside, find something to smack. For example, this lovely tree right here, you can use it to harvest things. Obviously it's great at chopping wood at the start, not so good on metal items, takes a little bit longer, and stone of course as well, so will take a little bit longer for those things, but also you can use it to upgrade wooden blocks. Okay, so tip number 3, harvesting resources. Harvest resources such as trees, rocks, and more using your fists with left click. Tools are much faster and yield higher amounts of resources. So what it's basically letting you know is you can use your fists to harvest things. Obviously at the start you have to use your fists to get your plant fibers, your trees, and you can punch rocks as well. Would not recommend it for harvesting trees. It will take you an absolute decade. And you won't get that much wood anyway. Of course, just use your stone axe. So tip number 4 from the Fun Pimps is distractions. So in 7 Days to Die, you can distract the zombies by throwing rocks. And you can also use snowballs. Now, as you can see over here, we've got a large amount of zombies. And if you want to sneak past these guys, because you're injured and you just don't want to engage with them, you can just chuck a few rocks. And they should all run over to it. There we go, see? So now we've got plenty of room just to sneak by. Just make sure you don't hit one of them on the head, because they may find you and come and eat your brains. But yeah, lovely little tip there from the Fun Pimps. Snowballs and rocks could save your life. Okay, so tip number 5 from the Fun Pimps is stealth and sneaking. So if you crouch down, you're sneaking. And you see this little meter here, which is like your sneak meter. Enemies will have a harder time seeing you and hearing you, and you can increase your stealthiness with perks, items, and item mods. The stealth meter does not show specifically sight or sound, but a combined value that lets you see to which degree an action affects your stealth. So if we stay very still, the stealth meter will go down. If you start moving, it goes up, and obviously the more and more noise you make, the higher it goes up. Now you can invest points into sneaking stuff and things, so you've got hidden strike from the shadows as well, which makes you very much harder to spot. Also, there's certain armor in the game which you can equip, which will give you more sneaking abilities, such as the assassin armor. And you can see there that noise increases 0, sneak damage is increased as well. So these sort of things will actually make you be able to sneak a little bit better and be harder to spot, and obviously harder for the zombies to find. So tip number 6 from the Fun Pimps is encumbrance. So if you carry too much stuff and things around in your pocket while you're playing 7 Days to Die, you will become encumbered. So you can see right now we are 18 encumbered, and if I sprint, I am really, really slow. So you got to be super careful not to encumber yourself too much, as you're not going to be able to escape the zombies and they're going to eat your brains. So you can increase your carrying capacity with a certain perk called Pack Mule. So if you go to the strength tree, down here you'll see Pack Mule, and this will allow you to carry more items without being encumbered. So if you don't want to spend your valuable points on Pack Mule, there are pocket mods that you can put on your armor pieces that will reduce the amount that you're encumbered by. Now there is 1, 2, 3, and a 4 slot pocket mod. Now there used to be clothing pocket mods, but the way they've changed the armor system now, there's only 4 pieces of armor, and there are only armor pocket mods now, so there's no clothing pocket mods anymore. But though that is another way there to reduce your encumbrance and make yourself way more mobile and harder to eat. Okay, so tip number 7 from the Fun Pimps is armor. Armor increases your armor rating, which is visible in the character window. An armor rating of 90 reduces incoming damage by 90%. Armor can also provide some resistances to effects like bleeding or being stunned. Some armor slows you down and uses more stamina to move. So basically, certain armors, we have a little look in here and look at the different armors. There's a lot of new armor in 7 Days to Die 1.0, but basically some armor is classed as heavy. So for example, the Raider helmet, that is heavy armor. And you can see here, it gives you stamina penalties, mobility penalties, increases noise. You also have medium armor, which is kind of like a middle ground. It'll give you a little bit of a stamina penalty and a little bit of a mobility penalty, but it'll give you way more armor than the light stuff. A little bit less armor than the heavy stuff, of course, so it's a bit of a balancing act, really, depending on your playstyle. And then, of course, you've got the super light armor, like the athletics gloves and the assassin stuffs. I think assassin is... Oh, no, assassin's medium. Okay, so, yeah, rogue armor's light armor, athletics is light armor. So, yeah, depending on your playstyle, depending on how you want to play and how you like to run around and do your stuff and things, will depend on what kind of armor you use. Me, personally, I'll go for a bit of a mix. My character at the moment on my current playthrough has a mix of biker, rogue, and preacher outfit. I mean, this is obviously just a test world that I'm playing in, but on my actual playthrough on YouTube, I do have a bit of a mixed set. So one of the things to take into account as well is some armor sets do have bonuses. So full set bonuses for each of the armor sets. I'll let you do the research and do the digging on that. But yeah, each armor set does have a full set bonus. So keep a lookout for those. So, tip number 8 from the Fun Pimps is bandages. Some cuts can be serious and cause you to bleed out. Carry bandages on your belt. You can quickly apply them with left click to stop the bleeding. Use right click to heal one of your buddies. So basically, I always do this. For me, my number 1 slot is always first aid bandage or a med kit. I don't tend to use the normal bandages too much. I just use them to craft the medical bandages, but I always have one on my number 1 slot. So no matter what I'm doing when I'm running around, if I start bleeding, instead of in a blind panic going into my inventory and looking for the bandage, I can just hit number 1 key on my mouse and heal up pretty good. Actually, not a bad tip there that time, so yeah. Okay, on to the next tip from the Fun Pimps. Tip number 9, sharing quests. So by default, quests are automatically shared with party members. After accepting or receiving a quest, press 0 and click on the exclamation mark icon to access the quest menu. There you can view location, objectives, possible rewards, or even change the active quest. Automatic quest sharing can be adjusted in the general settings to allow players to share or accept only the ones they want. I mean, you can use O on your keyboard, but I tend to hit tab and just go up to here to the quest menu. And if you've got a quest going, it will be here. And like it said, they're automatically shared with your buddies unless you change that in the general settings before you load in, or on the server settings if you're running a server. Generally, I'll leave it on automatic, and if someone wants to go off and do a quest on their own when you're playing with your buddies, they can do that. As soon as they start the quest, it'll just cancel it out for you, so it's no big deal. But yeah, it's now automatic. It never used to be automatic in Alpha 21, and in 1.0 they kind of made it automatic quest sharing, which is pretty cool, I think. Okay, so tip number 10 from the Fun Pimps is, what is it good for? So you may loot or harvest an item and not know its importance. In your inventory, select an item, then select recipes from the action menu, and this will display all the recipes that can be made using this item and the required workstations. So let's say you've just been looting away, and you found some mechanical parts, and you're thinking, what on earth are these things for? I don't even know. So you can go into your menu, into your inventory. You can click on the item with left click, and here you'll see recipes. You can either use your mouse or press A. If you click on recipes, it will show you all of the stuff and things that you can make with that particular item. And if a workbench is required, there will be a little icon here. So this is the workbench icon. It may say campfire or chem station or cement mixer. But yeah, that's a really good way to check, just in case you find something and you don't know. For example, blueberries as well. I mean, you can make blueberry seeds, blueberry pie, grandpa's moonshine, antibiotics, yucca juice smoothies, all kinds of things. But yeah, that's a good tip there. If you find something and you don't know what it's for, just click on it, click recipes. It will show you all the stuff and things you can make. And then you'll know whether it's worth hanging on to or not. Okay, so the next tip from the Fun Pimps is tip number 11, and that is workstations. So you can craft many basic items in your inventory. Advanced recipes will require workstations like a forge workbench or chemistry station. If a recipe in your backpack shows a small icon, then this will tell you which workstation it is. So we've just been through that just now, and basically, if you look at any item you want to make, so asphalt, for example, if you wanted to make some asphalt or concrete mix, it will tell you here that that is the little cement mixer icon, so you know you need a cement mixer to craft it. Sometimes it tells you in the description and sometimes it doesn't. Haha, Trader Hugh. What a legend. Okay, so tip number 12 from the Fun Pimps is unlocking recipes. So if a recipe shows a lock icon, you cannot craft it yet. The items unlock tab will show you one or more ways to unlock it. Recipes are unlocked by reading a schematic, a perk book, or a crafting skill magazine. So let's say you want to make yourself a fancy new machine gun and you can't because it's locked. So what you can do is click on the skill button here, and that will tell you all the things you need to unlock it. So if we go to machine guns, we can see here that the AK-47 machine gun is unlocked at level 11, and it tells you Tactical Warfare is the book you need to craft to be able to unlock and craft that particular item. So for sledgehammers, it will be Get Hammered, and of course you can increase your loot odds with certain perks. So the Sledgehammer perk, Skull Crusher, will increase your chance of finding the Get Hammered books. Spearmaster perk will increase sharp sticks, Boomstick for shotgun, and so on and so forth. But yeah, basically to improve your crafting level and unlock new recipes, you need to read books. Which brings me swiftly on to the next tip from the Fun Pimps. Now, this is tip number 13. How do I craft better tools? So again, it's going to be with books. So if you've got a level 1 stone axe and you want to know how to make a better stone axe, you're going to need Tool Digest, and it will be a different book for each different type of thing. So for tools, it's Tool Digest. For shotguns, it's Shotgun. There's a book for machine guns, there's a book for rifles, there's a book for pistols, knuckles, all the different things. So if I just grab myself a little Tool Digest books here. So at the moment, I can only make myself a level 1 stone axe, but if I read a few of these, suddenly I can make level 6, level 5, and you can use the little toggle here to change what level you want, because you might not want to waste legendary parts on a stone axe level 6, or maybe even an iron pick level 6. You might just want to make a level 5 and save those legendary parts for slightly better items when you get to the end of that tier list. But yeah, basically at the start of the game you can only craft level 1. The quality of an item is displayed at the bottom of this icon. To craft higher quality items, read various crafting skill magazines found in loot at the trader or even as a quest reward. So tip number 14 from the Fun Pimps is crafting skill magazines. So we just kind of gone over that a little bit, but again, if you want to craft better things, you have to find the magazines. Magazines are the key to increasing your crafting skills. They can be found in mailboxes, bookshelves, and many other related lootable containers. So if you want shotgun books, you're going to have to look in shotgun Messiah crates. If you want cooking books, look in kitchens. If you want tool books, go to a working stiff. I mean, it's pretty much self-explanatory. So you've got to target the kind of loot you want, depending on what it is you're after. Look for different crates to suit your book requirements. So, tip number 15 from the Fun Pimps is perk loot boost. So, investing points into a perk will increase the chance of finding related magazines, parts, and ammo for that perk when searching in qualifying loot containers. For example, the boomstick perk will increase the chances of finding shotgun weekly, shotgun parts, shotguns, and shotgun shells in shotgun messiah crates, gun safes, or weapon bags. So yeah, like we just said, basically, if you start smacking loads of points into boomstick, you're going to find loads of shotgun stuff. If you suddenly start putting points into Deadeye, you're going to find stuff for rifles more often. If you want that crucible early on, put a ton of points into advanced engineering. So obviously, depending on what books you're after and what skill tree you're kind of building on, will depend on what kind of loot you find. So yeah, just again, depends what you look for, depends where you look, will depend on what you find. So, tip number 16 from the Fun Pimps is base upgrading. So, building blocks can be upgraded to stronger versions using material and a stone axe. Of course, you don't have to use a stone axe. You can use a claw hammer later on in the game, or a nail gun if you get really lucky. But your most common materials are wood, cobblestone, concrete mix, and steel. So, you start off with wood. Next step is cobblestone, and it goes up to concrete. And finally, steel. Now, steel has a lot more hit points. Obviously, it's 10k. Concrete is 5k. Cobblestone 2.5. And I think wood is just 500. Yeah, so your wood is 500. Cobblestone 1500. Concrete is 5k. And steel is 10k. So by the time you get to the point where you got demos coming to your base, you want that sweet, sweet steel to stop them from leveling the place. Okay, so tip number 17 from the Fun Pimps is radial menus. So, the game does have radial menus. So if you hold down the button instead of hitting it, so if you hit tab, it'll bring you into your inventory. If you hold tab, it'll give you the radial menu. And there's all kinds of different options. You've got your crafting, character, but what this does is it gives you all the options along the top here just by holding tab instead of just hitting it. So me personally, I don't use the radial menus. I just hit tab and I use the top bar here to select my different menus. But you can do a quick radial menu and it will give you all the stuff and things on one menu. Now there is also different radial menus for different things. For example, on the blocks, if you hold down R, it will give you a radial menu, which gives you different shapes. You can copy rotations. You can change it to advanced rotation on face. You can change materials as well if you're in creative mode. Also, if you hold down R on your weapon, whether it be a crossbow or a gun of some kind, you do get the ability to pick out the different ammo types as well. So that is the only way to change ammo with your gun. Obviously, some guns can shoot different ammos, armor piercing, breaching slugs for the shotgun, high power ammo, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, hold down R with your weapon and that brings up another radial menu for your weapons for when you want to reload different ammo. Okay, so tip number 18 from the Fun Pimps is harvesting corpses. Animal corpses and rotten remains can be harvested for hide, meat and bone. Bone is used for crafting glue and duct tape, very important in the game. One of the things you're going to need a lot of. A stone axe will do it, but a bone knife, hunting knife or a machete is way more efficient. I'm not sure if you actually get a little bit more, but you do harvest a lot quicker. Obviously at the start, you're probably just going to be using a bone knife like this one here. And as long as you've got 5 bones, you can craft yourself a bone knife straight away early game. It is quite useful as well as a weapon. Early game, get a little bit of bleed on them. But yeah, I would highly recommend your first one, use your stone axe to harvest it, get those 5 bones and make yourself a little bone knife. You get a little bit more bang for your buck and it'll be a lot quicker than using your fists or using a stone axe. Okay, so tip number 19 is glue. So glue is a very important resource in 7 Days to Die, and one of the ways to get glue is to loot the trash, such as this little trash pile here. We didn't get any glue that time, but trash is a great place to look for glue. Also, you can make glue in a campfire. So if we have a little look here and search glue, there is multiple recipes for glue in the game. There's 3 in fact. So the first one you're going to be using is a basic one, is in the campfire, which is this little symbol here. And it's just bones and water. As you progress into the game, you will get a chem station, and that will make it a little bit cheaper for you on making the glue. It's a couple of less bones per glue in the chem station compared to the campfire. And then the ultimate glue, end game kind of glue, is the super corn. So once you get a super corn recipe and you make super corn seeds, you can grow the stuff. And instead of going around harvesting bones, you can just go in your little garden, harvest all your super corns, and make all the glue you need, as long as you've got enough water, that is. Okay, so tip number 20 is the right tool for the job. So the stone axe works on everything, but it's really slow. Iron tools are fast, and steel tools are even faster. Motorized tools are the fastest. So your auger and your chainsaw are way faster than any of the other tools. Now, obviously, you use an axe to harvest wood, a pickaxe to harvest stone, metal, and ores, and knives to harvest meat. Sledgehammers break things, but are not very good at harvesting materials. So it's pretty self-explanatory, guys. Don't try and harvest a tree with your pickaxe. It's going to take forever. Just use your actual stone axe or your fire axe to harvest wood. Use your pickaxe on stone and on iron as well. It's way quicker than the stone axe. If you manage to get a pickaxe at some point, it's going to be way quicker. Stone axe will still work, but it will take a lot longer. And of course, once you get to the end game, get yourself an auger. Now, one thing the Fun Pimps did not mention in this particular tip was that there are mods in the game that will make it quicker and easier for you to harvest resources. So you have the Wood Splitter mod for the fire axe, you have Iron Breaker mod and Bunker Buster mod for your pickaxe, Weighted Head mod as well, also the Gravedigger mod for your shovel, and there are various grip mods which make stamina usage and degradation of your tools slower and more efficient, and the structural brace mod that makes them degrade a little bit less as well. So yeah, not only is there skill points, there's also mods, so obviously bear that in mind. But yeah, basically use the right tool for the job, don't be a dumbass. Okay, so the next tip from the Fun Pimps is item stats. So to view an item stats, first select it in your inventory. The inspection window will show you the item stats, including the effects of any installed mods. Learn more about the item by selecting its description tab. Learn more about total stats in extended character stats tip. So here we have the item stats. It's green because there are mods on it. If we go here, it will tell you a little bit more about it. Pretty self-explanatory, really. It's not just for tools, it's for your armor as well. It tells you what the stats are. Now, these are compared to what you're wearing at the current time. So if I take my gloves off and then inspect them, there won't be any green or red numbers. But you can compare items by first clicking on one item and then hovering over another item. So we can see here that the assassin gloves give you 10% extra attack speed, but also 10% noise increase. So if we click on the biker gloves, we can see we get more weapon melee damage, but also less noise increase. So there's a bit of a balancing act, like I said with the armor before. You can compare armors by clicking on one and then hovering over the other one, and it will tell you the differences in some of the stats. With the armor, the compare does not include the modded values. If you've got mods on, it won't include that. It just gives you kind of a base level. But yeah, that's one way to check stats of your items in game. So on to tip number 22, extended character stats. So to access the character menu, press B. Below your character's name, select the extended character stats tab to see all your character's total stats, which include perks, buffs, equipped clothing, armor, and weapons. So here it is here, the extended character stats. We went through this earlier on in the video. It just tells you everything about your character, heat resist, cold resist, all that kind of stuff. If you really want to get into detail and find out exactly what stats your character has, this is the place to go. Okay, so tip number 23 from the Fun Pimps is bladed weapons. So bladed weapons such as knives and machetes are best for harvesting meat, hide and bones from animals and remains. These weapons will cause a bleed debuff on every hit, which can be bolstered by investing in the deep cuts perk. So if you like the knives, which some people do, they can be very useful, I think, as well if you're doing an agility build. You can improve your knife skills by going into agility tree and investing points into deep cuts. Each point into deep cuts will add more and more juicy goodness to your knife attacks. Now, all bladed weapons do add a bleed effect. Let's just go over and see this little lumberjack over here, Mr. Gurgles. What's up, buddy? If we give him a good old knife in the midriff, you can see his health bar is ticking down. There's actually blood coming out of him. That is something new for 1.0, which I do actually really like. I think it's a really good little detail that they added. But yeah, he will stop bleeding over time, and you can stack the bleed with multiple hits. And eventually they just bleed out. So there is another way to increase the bleed damage with this particular mod, the Serrated Blade mod. So if you put one of these onto your knife, has a 10% chance to cause a bleeding wound on a regular attack. But I don't know how good this one is, because it seems to me whenever you left click they start bleeding anyway. But apparently the Serrated Blade mod adds more of a chance to cause bleed. I mean, I hit him once and he's bleeding. Blah, 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 blah. Hit him again. And yeah, he's definitely bleeding again. So I don't know how good that mod actually is. I mean, it says it's a 10% chance to cause a bleeding wound from a regular attack. But it seems to me pretty much that they seem to bleed every time anyway. Okay, so tip number 24 from the Fun Pimps is a tip that I feel like we've already gone over. There seems to be a lot of repetitive stuff in their little menu tips. And this tip is pickaxes. So pickaxes are great for harvesting the various ores such as iron, lead, coal, and oil shale and potassium nitrate. So yeah, we went over this already. Pickaxes are great for ores. I mean, what else are you going to use? If you haven't got an auger, you're going to use a pickaxe. Obviously, we know it's better than the stone axe. But yeah, that's a pretty useless tip there, the Fun Pimps. We've already gone over that one. Okay, so tip number 25, very similar to tip number 24, and it's axes. Axes are excellent at harvesting wood, but are not the weapon of choice for zombie killing. Well, I tend to disagree a little bit, because if you have maxed out your skills in the strength tree, and you got minus 69 on maxed out and motherload maxed out, and you right click a zombie, this thing can be pretty devastating. And because it is a bladed weapon, you can put the Serrated Blade mod onto your axe, and I guess that's the only time it's really useful. But yeah, axes are great for wood. Who'd have thought it? Okay, so tip number 26 is steel knuckles. Steel knuckles are the most devastating brawling weapon and can also be used to harvest meat from animals and remains. So not only are the steel knuckles great for punching things and murdering them, you can actually use the steel knuckles to harvest meats from your kills. I never use the steel knuckles. Some people love them. I don't like getting that close to zombies, if I'm quite honest with you. If I'm close enough to punch them, they're a little bit too close for my liking. But little tip for you there, if you do have a steel knuckle build, you don't have to carry a knife. You can just use your steel knuckles to harvest the meats and the zombie remains. Okay, so tip number 27 is wrenches. So wrenches, ratchets and impact drivers are the best at harvesting mechanical items. You see a different animation, then you can get special resources like electrical parts that you would not get with a pickaxe. So if we hit this guy with our normal pickaxe, we're literally just going to get a load of iron, and that's pretty much it. But if we use our wrench, surprise, surprise, we get other goodies. We get mechanical parts, springs, pipes, radiators. Now, on the full cars, you will get cloth, leather, and engines and stuff as well, and batteries. Also headlights as well, gasoline, plastics, all the good stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. As you go up the tiers, after the wrench, you have the ratchet. And then after the ratchet, you have the impact driver. One thing I like to do when I'm wrenching sometimes is, instead of using the left click, I just use the right click. If you've got decent stamina and you've had a nice bit of food, you can actually wrench things a little bit quicker, and you don't really get much less from it. I mean, I'm not sure. Do you get less? Maybe some people know more than me. I'm pretty sure there's people out there that know better than I do. But yeah, There is two animations. The left click just does a simple one, and the right click whacks it. It does a little bit more damage. It does it a little bit quicker, at the cost of stamina, of course. Okay, so tip number 28 from the Fun Pimps is sledgehammers. Sledgehammers are great for breaking things, but yield little to no harvest. I mean, yeah, you could harvest a tree with a sledgehammer if you so desired, but you're not going to get much wood out of it. But yeah, one thing the sledgehammer is really good at is breaking things. Okay, so the next tip from the Fun Pimps is using iron tools. So there's here an iron pickaxe damages metal much faster than a stone axe, but also costs more stamina. Gaining levels and eating cooked foods increases your base stamina. Beverages and perks can help with stamina regeneration, stamina cost, and calories burned. As we discussed before, we all know that a pickaxe is the best thing to use when harvesting metal. But there are certain foods in the game that will give you a buff. So let's just pick one, for example, good old hobo stew. Now, as you progress through the game, you will get better foods. And the better foods will give you max stamina bonuses. So this one, for example, the hobo stew gives you an extra 30 max stamina. So if you see my stamina down here, 200. That is because obviously I've maxed my guy out so I can show you guys certain stuff. But if we use that hobo stew, we get a little stamina bonus down there of 30 points. Now, there are other foods with better than 30. You have to do that exploring yourself as you go through the different recipes and unlock them. You will get better foods that will give you better buffs. One of the other things you want to look out for, especially early game when you're struggling for food, is this little bad boy right here, the red tea. What the red tea does is it gives you efficient digestion plus 15% and 15% stamina regen. Also, you get some water and it lasts 6 minutes. It's probably the go-to drink early game. Until you can make the yucca juice smoothies and get your mega crush and stuff like that, the red tea is really useful. So we use that right now. We'll see another buff appear on the left there, and that is the efficient digestion buff. Which brings me on to my own little tip here. If you click on any of these icons on the left side, it will tell you what they mean. So this is telling us we're encumbered. That one's telling us we're recovering health. This is about our food digestion. We're regenerating stamina slightly faster because of our drink. Max stamina bonus. And all the rest of it. So if you're ever wondering what any of these are, just click on them and it will tell you what they are and what they do. All your status effects can be seen on the right here as well once you click on one of these guys. Okay, so tip number 30 from the Fun Pimps is scrapping items. Now, in your inventory, you can scrap many looted and harvested items down to their base material to save space. So we all love this game because we want to loot and get every single piece of loot in the whole world, take it all home with us. But that's not always possible, especially early game when you don't have a decent vehicle and you're struggling to decide, what do I take, what do I leave? I don't know what to take, what to leave. What you can do is certain things you can scrap them down into their base resources. When you scrap an item, you do lose 25% of the material, but you can also smelt brass and iron items straight into a forge to get the higher values. So, for example, if we scrap this radiator down, it will give us 187 brass. Now, if we was to put that straight into a forge, we stick it straight into the smelting slot on the forge, stick a little bit of fuel in there, turn that bad boy on, and in 1 minute 40, it will smelt down. Now, that can be made faster with the bellows. The anvil's for obviously crafting things faster, and the crucible is for steel. But if we stick the radiator straight in instead of scrapping it first, there we go, it finally smelted in. We get 250 brass instead of the 187 that we get from scrapping it. Now, this also works with pipes. If you scrap a single pipe, you're going to get a little bit of iron there. 7 iron for that one pipe. If we smelt it straight into the forge, you get 10. So you get a little bit more than you would. Now, of course, if your inventory's full up and you just want to make some space, scrap the pipes. They'll go into your iron stack, and you can always make pipes in the forge later on. Some things though, they do not scrap and they're not craftable. So electrical parts and mechanical parts are not craftable. So some things you're going to just have to hang on to. But yeah, it's a lot of inventory management. It's important in the game. You have to figure out what it is you want to keep, what it is you want to leave behind and come back for later. And good little tip there if you want to get yourself a little bit extra. It doesn't really make too much difference. I tend to scrap the radiators as I go around because brass is very abundant, especially in 1.0 compared to earlier versions of the game. Brass is absolutely everywhere in this game. But yeah, another little tip there from the Fun Pimps. Okay, so let's move on to tip number 31, status effects. So we went over this briefly earlier, but basically during the game you will have many status effects, buffs and debuffs. While you're in any game menu such as skill or crafting, click on the effect icon on the far left and you'll be taken to the effects description. So we went over this one already. These are your status effects here. If you click on them, it tells you what they're all about. You can figure out what is going on and how to fix it or how long it's going to last or all the good stuff. There's another one there that popped up while we're near the forge. We're being warmed by the campfire or by the fire on the forge, so we get 15 cold resist. But yeah, that's something we went over earlier. Status effects on the bottom left side of your screen. Okay, so we're nearly at the end now. It is tip number 32 from the Fun Pimps. Known and unknown recipes. So if you find a perk book, crafting magazine or mod schematic in your inventory, you can tell if you've already read it by looking at the small book symbol in the top left of the item's icon. If you've already read one, it will show an open book symbol. So if we get a few books in here. Right, so here's a couple of books. So 8x scope mod and a vehicle armor mod schematic. So you can see the little book symbol there. That means we haven't read it yet. So we're just going to read that one. So if in the future you find another one, you'll notice that the little icon there is an open book, and that lets you know that you've already read it. And you can read it for a little bit of extra XP, but some of these schematics are actually worth a pretty penny. Now, the crafting books are not worth as much. The schematics seem to be the ones that are worth keeping and worth selling. But sometimes your inventory's full, as we spoke about earlier, and you just want to make some space. I tend to just read them for the extra XP because I've always got an absolute ton of dukes in this game. And you get a little bit of extra XP down there in the corner, so it's not too bad. If you want to clear some space, you do get a little bit of something back. Okay, so on to the final tip from the Fun Pimps, and that is Twitch integration. So if you're a Twitch streamer like me and you want to stream 7 Days to Die, you can enable Twitch integration to allow your viewers to interact with your game. Now, look for the in-game Twitch options button for more details. So if you hit escape and you go to options, there is a Twitch tab here, and you can link your Twitch account and log in. So you can link your Twitch account to the game, and your lovely viewers can come in and spawn you in lots of lovely goodies, or they can also try and murder you, which seems to happen to me quite a lot. Now, obviously, if you haven't checked out my Twitch channel, don't forget to check that one out. It is on the channel page. There's a link for that if you want to check me out over on Twitch. But yeah, some interesting tips there from the Fun Pimps. Now, please bear in mind this is for beginners, so don't jump in the comments telling me they're rubbish tips. They're not my tips. They're tips from the Fun Pimps, as I've been saying all along. So if any of these tips did help you out, then don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, now is a great time to do so. I love you guys. Remember, stay safe, have fun, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.